my name is HAPruitt, and I'm the author of Anelthalien and the second book in the Anelthalien series, Earth Quaking. And in this video, I'm going to talk about Earth Quaking. I want to try and keep talking about Earth Quaking, and I haven't gotten to do videos about what's in the book, and so I wanted to do some just explaining some things and talking about some ideas that are presented in the book. So this video, I want to talk about what is on, it's that far in the book. It is one of the ideas I bring up, and this part gave me a lot of questions in my mind when I was writing it and reading it because of what it seems to present and what I actually mean when I wrote it, what I was actually thinking about, and then when I reread it, what I was like, oh, that sounds like this. And so I wanted to explain to you why I kept it in the book after I wrote it, and why, and kind of what it means. So let me read you the part that I'm going to talk about today in Earth Quaking. It's on page 222 in the chapter called Interlaced Around Nothing. So Kendall and Tad are talking, and Tad says, "I guess I heard her." With her mouth hanging open and confusion on her face, Kendall stared at him. Her? Yeah, anybody who nags that much has to be a girl. Oh, Kendall replied, her mind rocked by his conclusion. She had always imagined Hux to be a man and suspected all the makers were similar to him. Thinking of them as anything more than one sort of person seemed strange, but as she remembered Ella's very different dragon and how each of the makers spoke in a unique way, it did not seem possible for them to be exactly the same. Now, wondering what his dragon looked like, she eagerly asked, "Can I see your necklace?" "Why?" "Well, I never really thought about them being different, except the colors. But Ella's little dragon wasn't like mine, so I bet yours is different too." Okay, so the conversation, what's going on is Kendall and Tad are talking about their necklaces and about the makers kind of talking to them, and they, up until later in the books, they think they each have a different maker, and it looks like it from their necklaces, and they're just kind of finding that out in Earth Quaking. Because on the cover of the first book, Anelthalien, you see one dragon, and this one you see a different dragon. So they're thinking that there's 4 makers, and they're all different. I will tell you, without spoiling anything later, they find out something that's a little more, that's a lot more congruent with who God is. But at this point in the book, they don't know a lot about the makers, and so they're trying to figure things out. So this idea of Tad's maker being a girl, first of all, I don't think God is a girl. I don't think God necessarily has a gender, but he's referred to with male pronouns throughout the Bible, and so I think it's only right to refer to him, God, as a male sort of figure. I don't want to get too deep in theology, but that's what the Bible presents God as a him, and so I know God is him, and he's one. What happens here is that Tad and Kendall don't really understand who the maker is at this point. And so they are just trying to figure things out. And Tad, if you read the books, then hopefully you understood, Tad just says the first thing that comes to his mind. And as I said, I read over this, I edited it and edited it and edited it over and over and over. Every time I got to that part, I was like, oh, people are going to think I'm sacrilegious because Tad says the maker's a girl. And they're going to be like, oh, but Tad just says the first thing that comes to his mind. If you know any boys or any people that just spurt out things, the first thing they think of and don't really mean it, it's kind of like that. Like he's just saying, if he nags that much, he must be a girl. It's kind of like that kind of comment. He's not saying anything deep and theological. So I wanted to explain that first. And I kept it in there because that's just Tad. I mean, taking it out would have just taken away from his character and taken away from this opportunity to present the idea that comes next in that next paragraph on the following page 223. I can see it. It's up at the top here where Kendall starts thinking about how Ella's necklace is different, and each of the makers, as they perceive at this point, they each perceive they each have their own maker. And they're thinking how they're each speaking to the 4 main characters in a different way. So far, I don't want to ruin anything for you, and so I'll just say, excuse me. Tad is not really hearing a voice, but kind of getting a feeling in certain ways about his maker kind of guiding him. Ella is more literal in her interaction with her maker, and Kendall is kind of having a lot of help from her maker, but not necessarily a voice or anything like that. And so she's saying we're all encountering the maker in different ways, and she's wondering, are all the makers different? And that idea is not to say that it wasn't to say that God is different and everybody can have their own God and things like that. That's not what it's getting at. What is behind all of it is the fact that God is so vast and so big and so, he's just vast. And we can't, as one person, comprehend who he is, all of who he is. And so God in his vastness understands how to talk to each of us in unique ways and how to present himself to us in unique ways. Like, if you go through the Bible, some people call him Father, some people call him Lord. There's a lot in Psalms. I didn't prepare all the list of names, but I mean, they make posters with the names of God on them, and it's all God, but just people call him different things because they interact with him in different ways. You know, if you hear people pray at all, some people open, Dear Heavenly Father, some people say Lord, some people say God, some people say Jesus, you know. There's just lots of names for God because he presents himself in different ways to different people, because we each are limited and understand in a different little way. And so that's the idea behind what's going on those 2 pages. That Kendall and Tad think that there are several different makers, but what's really going on is they're starting to see the one maker speak to them in different ways. They don't realize it's one maker yet. That comes later. I hope that's not a huge spoiler, because if you read it, hopefully you know that God is one God, but he's also 3. Anyway, we'll talk about that later in the 4th book. But in here, they're just starting to understand how God is speaking to them in different ways. The maker is speaking to them in different ways. So if you get to that part of the book and you're kind of like, what's she believe? I believe God is not really identified by a certain gender. He's not limited like we are humans limited, but he is addressed as him and he, and so that's what I believe. And also that God is so vast that none of us can comprehend who he is, and so he shows himself to us in different ways, and we understand him in different ways. So that is what that part's about, if you had any questions about that part. If you have any more questions or any more thoughts or things you want to talk about in Earth Quaking, please let me know. I'm going to make videos like this, hopefully each month, talking a little bit more about the theology in Earth Quaking, all the ideas and the really cool stuff about God in here. So tell me, do you have any thoughts about that? Do you have any thoughts about the other things you might have read in Earth Quaking? Do you have any questions about anything around that topic? I would love to talk to you. I may not have all the answers, but I can look it up and talk to people and hopefully come back to you with something. So please comment, please like this video, and please subscribe. And thank you very much for watching. Bye. If you want to know more about Anelthalien or HAPruitt, please follow me on Instagram at HAPruitt. You can find me on Amazon as an Amazon author, HAPruitt. Please watch my YouTube channel and all my cool videos on my channel, HAPruitt Anelthalien. You can find me on the Facebook page, HAPruitt Anelthalien. You can follow me on Goodreads by the name HAPruitt and the book Anelthalien, or you can go to my website where so much cool stuff about Anelthalien is. The website is HAPruitt.com. I know it's not tall enough, but it's just good lighting and everything. Sit down. Oh, you have no idea how hard it is to sit down. Okay, here I am. Now I have to get up. Sitting. Okay. We're here. Eldon, what in the world? Okay. Put the braid here so people can see I'm not bald. Is the camera tippy?